Now we have lots to talk about with the 3-year-olds, where they're at, what they're doing. A couple updates. One a little frustrating, but it's the way it is. That would be Adrenaline Rush. Obviously, Adrenaline Rush, 2 starts back, raced like he bled, and he did. We put him on Lasix, trained him up, raced him the other night. First start on Lasix, he actually raced rather well, moving from the condition claimer into the straight condition races. Finished second in 55, beat a narrow head, and then after the race couldn't walk. He had a small fracture line in his left hind cannon bone, and it would require a screw. So that sounds like a fairly extensive thing that may be career ending, but not this day and age. Always be Mickey had multiple screws in both his hind legs when he set the world record. Before he set the world record, he had these operations done. So definitely something that has, as far as broken bones and recovery and prognosis, the way the surgeon had spoke to me, the fact that he was racing, he was at the peak health, that this wasn't just a horse in training that broke a bone. This was a horse that was at his very best when he did it. He said the prognosis returning to the races was I don't know if he used the word excellent, and I don't know if that a veterinarian or a surgeon would, but the prognosis was very good. So one screw inserted into that left hind cannon bone, 2 months in the stall. The recovery rate is the recovery time. You can't short him, so to speak. So I guess the best way to look at it is, I think the first time he's safely allowed to and can go into a pool is when we'll start swimming him. The exact prognosis will probably end up being, taking multiple x-rays over the next 5 months. So after that 2-month, maybe 6-week to 8-week mark, make sure that the bone is filling in nicely. Make sure it's healing good at that point. Then we can get a better timeline of what we can do as far as exercise. I don't think he can return to the track for 4 or 5 months maybe, but he can return to working, and that would be in the pool. I just don't know safely when he can. The good news is the horse will recover. Also, the fact that he was on the left line for quite some time leads me to believe that there may have been something brewing there that we just couldn't see, and there was very little we could do about it. So he did fracture his cannon bone. If I said anything other than cannon bone in the last 2 minutes, I apologize. He did fracture his cannon bone, and he will recover. He will race again. So Donato Patriot K is a horse we had picked up this week. Now, last week he raced for Steve. A friend of mine, Steve Palermo, had purchased him off On Gate. Now, I'll tell you what, it was very kind of him. He had purchased this horse off On Gate for $20. He had made some money and then sold us a package of him and High Gear No Fear for $75,000, which priced Donato Patriot K at $15. So we got a discount from Steve. We got a discount for the horse, especially since I was trying to bid on a virtually, on paper, virtually identical horse, and he went for $26,000 on Gate today. We had bought Donato Patriot K for $15. So across the board, from what I can see on paper, in reality, because I've sat behind him multiple times, I would say a pretty good deal for Donato Patriot K. First glance, we'll go through the list of who are proposed horses to go to Harrisburg. Our first glance is on that list. Now, if something changes between now and then, if we look and say, okay, the way he's been racing, he's now on Lasix. The way he's been racing, is he better? Do we have any different paths for him? Is the birth of where he is, where he could be, where he needs to be, has that widened? Is there more options now? We'll reevaluate after every race, but he is, as of right now, entered in the Harrisburg sale first part of November. Aglaire AM has been racing fantastic. No reason to believe she is. She fits the same class again. This is the type of horse that fits perfectly at Mohawk. Now, if we thought this was it, if we thought that she's pretty near at her pinnacle right now, make no mistake, she would be in Harrisburg also, and probably worth a lot of money. But I think the best is yet to come, quite a ways in the future for Aglaire. And this is a high-speed, very talented filly who I think is just scratching the surface of what she can do and what she can do for the stable. So a horse that we are going to hang on to for very different reasons. Two similar cases, if you don't really understand the nuances, I guess, of classifications in Ontario. And I'll continue to revisit this. I know a lot of people say, and it seems to be, I get a lot of the same emails, you're moving this now to more of a profit situation, and that's not the case at all. I'm moving this to a situation where we have seen over the last 4 years what does work and what absolutely has not worked. And keeping 3-year-olds that are not going to mature or hopefully get to the next level, it ends up being a losing proposition almost every single time. And it's just a matter of the stable evolving and understanding, okay, when we get to this point with a horse like First Glance or a horse on the trotting side that has the same wins, the same money, and the same ability to push forward into the classifications, what has worked and what hasn't. And in his case, it has not. And that's been well documented over the last 4 years. And in a case like Galera M's, it's not a slam dunk, but more times than not, it has been an effective tool. So 2 similar cases, but very different also. I'm a Lovely Lady. Now this is a filly that's racing on the 16th of October in the final. I'm actually thinking of maybe dipping into the water, into the open market before then, saying, okay, we're going to race her once at the Meadows, put a really good line. I suspect she'll trot over the Meadows 55, 56 and do well in that class. As she gets up much higher than that class, she gets in trouble. So she has 3 or 4 wins right now, I believe, parimutuel victories. Fair wins don't count. And as those add up, she can do in the class she's in, same as Mama Knows Best. But at some point, that's going to saturate. The fact that she's racing for $75,000 and she is one of the better Buckeye fillies in Ohio, putting her on gate, knowing that race for $75,000 is coming up, coming off a good line at the Meadows, she may never be worth more than she is. So in this, when you hear me talk like that, you're like, oh, well, Anthony, you're only looking to make the most you can on a sale. Yeah, that is part of it too. I mean, we can race her in the final. We can race her until I say, okay, that's it. Now I'm a Lovely Lady has nowhere else to race. That's a possibility, but I'd rather not go down that route. If I could say, okay, she has 2 more wins in this class. She's got a race coming up. People are out there looking for horses. They understand this also. This isn't a foreign language to people in the industry. People are also going to look and say, okay, she's got 5 parimutuel wins. I can race her up to the non-winners at 8, not more than 10. That class is in a bunch of tracks in a bunch of states all over the U.S. So where do we race I'm a Lovely Lady? Is she good enough to do the non-winners at 8, 10? No, I don't think so. Plus, at some point in the fall into the winter, she will need a rest. So there's that also. So all these things are all trying to equate to a number, to a time frame, a timeline for each horse. I'm a Lovely Lady, when you factor in that big $75,000 purse coming up, all of a sudden you might be able to turn a $35,000 horse into a $50,000 horse. And you can say to yourself, as you may have just done in your head, well, if she wins that race, it's 37. She finishes 6th at 0. So there's 2 sides to every coin. I'm just looking for the best way forward for all of us in the group. Italian Grid has now been sold. We can scratch him off that list. He was sold last week, and you know, the fact is we kept them all summer to race in those condition claimers. They didn't run regularly. The schedule was not set in stone, so it was 1 week condition claimer, next week it didn't go. We had to race him in another track in a straight condition. It didn't work out well. Then he made the break last time, and it was just an unfortunate issue throughout the summer that they couldn't fill that class. If there had been a 15 claimer for non-winners at 25 or 30 all the way through the summer, we could have raced in. It would have been a good summer for us, but there just wasn't. Most of the time it was 15 for non-winners at 70, which is unfair to him, because he hasn't made more than 30, but he has to race against horses that made upwards of 70, which makes it very, very difficult for a horse like Italian Grit to do well. So we were forced to unload him. Jazzy Judy, she just wasn't quite ready to trot in 57 yet. If we put her in to go this week, she would have to. So I told Tim, don't put her in to go. I don't want to go on the track at 20-1 with Jazzy Judy. Train her again in 58, 59, 2 minutes, so at least she's tight enough. If we get a trip, then we can give her the tools she needs to trot that fast. So you'll see her race next week. And now, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be in Lexington next week. So I guess it'll depend on how she trained for Tim. If she trained really well and really strong, then fine. Somebody else can drive her at the Meadows next week. If she didn't, maybe she'll need 1 more week, and then I'll be back and can race her. Miss Meringue, they canceled the races. Just one thing after another with this horse. Canceled the races after race 2, so she's going to be in to go next Saturday, likely at Flamborough. This is a problematic situation to be in. I don't think she's worth what she should be worth right now. The only way to get her there is to have her start racing a little bit better. To sell her for what we get for her right now, I think would be a mistake. In my mind, a mistake. And that's in no way saying this filly is on her way up. She may not be. But for what we would get for her right now, I think it would be a mistake to unload her. I think we just let it play out over the next 4 or 5 weeks and make a decision, reevaluate every start, make a decision on the way. Mama Knows Best drew 8 or 9 this week. Very bad draw for Mama Knows Best, but she races good from behind. You know, if I can let her snap out of there, get away 5th or 6th, catch some cover, who knows? Who knows what will happen? She has really impressed me the way she's turned into a real professional on the track. Very impressed with Mama Knows Best and can't wait to race her. 9-hole or otherwise, I can't wait to race her this week. My Jazz looked much better. Much better this week. I think, hopefully, we have her under control now. Jason, the vet, the Andy Betts that's swimming her, Kirby, everybody taking care of this filly and chipping in has done an incredibly great job. You guys don't know how difficult the year 2021 was for My Jazz. It's been very, very hard for her, and she's muscled through like she always had her whole life. And I shortchanged her on the breeding also. When we were looking at potential broodmares, I didn't remember exactly what was on her pedigree page. I do now. In the second year, My Jazz was a stakes champion, won the breeders at 2, made $117,000, took a mark of 57 as a 2-year-old. Did not have a great 3-year-old year, but I think it will come on now. Look past that into the second dam, you have Monty Hall, who made $900,000, another horse with 150, 200 on there. Decently bred, decent pedigree, because when you look at it, My Jazz will be the first dam. My Jazz and her sisters and brothers, 2 or 3 of them, which aren't that good, will be the second dam. Then you'll see Monty Hall in the third dam. Decent pedigree, not awesome, but decent pedigree, and just as tough a mare as you're ever going to see in your life. You have no idea. None. I know you like her and you follow her, you might say, oh, she's so nice. You have no idea what that filly's been through this year. She is as tough as whalebone. No free lunch. He'll be back in the winter, as we talked about. Coffin bone injury, but prognosis is good for that also. He will make it back. Northern Blizzard. You're going to have to give me a little time here to work with this horse. We thought we had him perfect. That was a significant, it was superficial, but there's superficial and then there's superficial and then underneath the superficial, I suppose. I'm muddying it here, muddying the waters a little bit, but there may have been a little bit more going on in that foot. He took a pretty good chunk off that foot. It's growing in now, but we're trying to get him back on track. He's never been an easy horse to get there. Usually when you get him there, he'll come forward, but we've been struggling to get him back there. He's been fast enough. I think Jason trained him today. He would have trained him yesterday. He didn't mention him, so I want to check up, see how Northern Blizzard is. He'll be ready soon. Just give me a little more time. He'll be ready soon. I'll tell you, horse perfect record, Jason said, was incredible the other day. 1.5 miles last half in 59, and he looked great. Very happy to hear that. I think even though I'm not there this week, this Wednesday, I could be there. No, I can't be. I got to be in the Meadows on Wednesday. He'll probably qualify on Wednesday. Rose Run Why Not's racing this week. Better race in Delaware. We'll keep her, see if we can get her moving forward now that we changed the way we race her and train her. So and Sue, I think you'll see a better horse next week. Found a few little issues with her. Let's see how she does in Dayton in the Constellation, but I'm expecting better things from her. Sweet Ambitions, racing tonight. She's continued to race forward. We'll see where we're at with her. Another wait-and-see type horse. Tanzanite Tricks has been awesome. I'm driving her this week. I expect her to be very, very good at the Meadows. Tipsy and Dixie will race in the Constellation, or the eliminations, the semis this week. I expect her to do well also. Walk on the Moon is also in the semis. We'll see what happens with him. A number of paths with him moving into Harrisburg also. And then Won My Heart Hanover training back. Should be ready to go probably in a couple of weeks. So those are your 3-year-olds. So back at the 2-year-olds. It's getting dark. I do get Sunday. I guess we can do it then. We'll talk to you all very soon.